Well, hello there, and welcome to today's orientation session. I'm your holistic nutrition gal, Luca Simmons. Having issues with my computer, so I'm on my phone, and it's the first time I've tried it this way. So, fingers crossed, this will work. Welcome, welcome. This is the orientation session for the Good Food Network for the entire month of January. So, this session has a couple of things in mind. Number one, it's to see if what I have in the network that's happening this month is going to be applicable to you. So, the purpose, the first part of this session, if you will, is to help you figure out if you're going to want to join us in the Good Food Network this month. It's that simple. Now, once you get the, oh yeah, that's for me kind of sense, which you should get pretty in the first 10 minutes of this video, then we're going to move into what are going to be some of the pieces that you're going to be able to see in the Good Food Network. So there's a couple of things that I have to just set up beforehand. Una minute. We've got, there's a couple of things that I like to do in these sessions. We do a sort of tour around what is happening in the network for the month of January. So we're going to get in there and take a peek to see, oh, for Pete's sake, I knew this would happen. Da, 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 da. Okay, it's working now. Phew. Okay, so I've got everything ready to take you through what's going to happen this month and all those different things. So it's just catching up on the computer that wasn't working, not expecting it not to work. Anyway, so let's dive right in. We are talking about adrenals. There's so many different ways to know if your adrenals are asking for help. Now, first things first, everything that I do here at Good Food and You is all about the role that nutrition and the role that consistency can play in the way that you feed yourself, in the way that you reach for food, the way that you prepare your foods, how you go shopping, and lifestyle ideas as well. And the idea is that you're building these consistent steps so that long term, you're supporting resiliency, you're supporting wellness, you're supporting overall keeping diseases at bay, but also nourishing the body deeply. So it's looking to the ways that food can really be supportive to you and be that ally in keeping you well. So when it comes to adrenals, it's one of the pillars of really addressing the safety of the body. When the adrenals are struggling, I will tell you it is because the body does not feel safe. And it's a quintessential cornerstone of what's going on in a body that struggles with histamine issues, a cornerstone of what a body is struggling with when there's inflammation, chronic inflammation going on, when there is a lot of stress and you feel stress keenly, but also chronic disease, autoimmune issues, all of the big capital D diseases that we associate with either getting older or those chronic things like COPD, like thyroid disorders, like mental health struggles, like cancer, like heart disease. Those big ones, they all have inflammation at the root of it. And what is inflammation in the body? It is the biochemistry of trying to keep you alive. The harder your body works at trying to keep you alive, the more you're going to tap out the adrenals. So looking after the adrenals is a part of how I propose we create biochemical safety in your body so that we can calm everything down and turn off the stress response and reduce what's driving chronic disease and all of those pesky symptoms you've got. So before we launch into what are those top 10 symptoms to look for, and then into the list of more things, I have a question for you. Give a think for a second. If I were to ask you, what are the top 3 most bothersome symptoms you've got going on? What are the top 3 things that really irk you or put a kink in your day? Or is the thing that's like the most annoying? I'll start. The ringing in my ears is incessant. It is so bothersome. And I didn't realize that I had it going on pretty much my entire life. And it got worse when I was a sound engineer and I did damage to my ears. That's probably the most bothersome symptom. I would say migraines would be next because migraines for me can stop me in my tracks and really put a dent in my day and stop me from participating in my day-to-day life. And my blood sugar imbalances are another big driver because they govern my mood, my capacity, and how I can move through the day and if I'm reliable or not. So give a think to what are your top 3 most bothersome symptoms. Grab a piece of paper, jot those down. And then I'm going to start going through a series of ways to know if your adrenals are struggling. And the way that the body talks is through symptoms. Yeah. So when you've got symptoms going on, it's really just your body trying to tell you that something's up and that she's asking for help, or they are asking for help, or he is asking for help. So I've got a list of the top 10 most bothersome symptoms. So I'm going to go through those. I've got also some main conditions that we're going to dive into today to talk a little bit more about what is happening in the body, because this is the kind of stuff we cover in the network. And then I'm going to go in through more symptoms after that. Actually, maybe I'll talk about the top 10 main conditions in a second. But let us start with, what are the top 10 ways that your body is trying to tell you that your adrenals are asking for help? Question number 1, are you listening to your body trying to tell you things? What is in my clientele, what do I see? Number 1, are you wired and tired? All the time. Do you get your 7th wind at night? That's what I call it. Do you get insomnia? Is it tricky to fall asleep? Do you wake up in the middle of the night? Are you not rested when you wake up in the morning? Give yourself a check mark, write that down under what you've just jotted. Number 2, anxiety. Do you struggle with nervousness or worries? Do you have a lot of anxiety? Do you irritability, or do you have panic attacks? Give yourself another check mark. Number 3, do you have sleep troubles? Yeah. Are you an insomniac? Does it seem like your brain can't shut down at the end of the day? Do you wake up in the middle of the night? Adrenals are asking for help, pal. Number 4, do you have weight gain? There's a flip side to this. Are there cravings also happening in your body? Could be cravings for carbs or sweets or pastries or pasta, crackers, sweet things, pastries. Or do you crave salty, crunchy things? It could be either salty or crunchy or the combination. Both indicate there's some adrenal stuff going on. Both tell me a little bit of a different story of what's happening behind the scenes, but both would be signs where I would say, in conversation with the client, I would say, oh, we're going to need to look after adrenals for you. Yeah. That was number 4. Number 5, do you have high or low blood pressure? That's your adrenals. Number 6, do you have bloating? Kind of regular on occasion, all the time, kind of constant thing. Do you have IBS, or do you have a hard time digesting? That could be another way of it showing up. Adrenals need some help. Number 7, do you have either troubles with your period or finding it tricky to go through perimenopause, or the menopause that never ends and you have all of the symptoms? That is adrenal stuff going on, but a connection between adrenals and liver. But absolutely the adrenals need some support here. Number 8, do you have any type of chronic inflammation on the go? How would you know you have chronic inflammation? There's pain, for sure. Joint pain can be the one that's the main one that people see. But if you understand that there's chronic inflammation as the root driver of symptoms that show up when you have any chronic disease, when we say chronic inflammation, I want you to write down yes for yourself if you have autoimmune issues, if you have any of the big top 10, which is cancer, cardiovascular disease, COPD, asthma, thyroid disorders, mental health disorders, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's and dementia and cognitive decline of any sort, or if it runs in your family. Yeah. Do you have an autoimmune condition? I'll add to that. Number 9, do you struggle with bone density loss? Bone density loss is a long-term impact of chronic inflammation, and bone density loss can be fast-forwarded when there's excess cortisol being made because the adrenals are working overtime. Mm-hmm. Number 10, do you have brain fog? Or do you have a hard time seeing tasks through and completing things? That could be your adrenals asking for help. How many of these top 10 do you have? If you've got at least one of these, then pal, you are going to do well to join us in the Good Food Network. Now, I've got more. Those are just the top 10. Those are the 10 most common ways that I see in my clients. Do you want to know what are the other symptoms? Let's go through them. All right, there's some diagnoses, right? We've got adrenal insufficiency, which is also known as Addison's disease. So this could be brought on by infections. It could also be brought on by autoimmune conditions going on or damage to the adrenal glands themselves. This means that you have a really hard time making cortisol and another hormone called aldosterone. Aldosterone, I've heard it mentioned both ways. I usually read these things. Some of your symptoms would be fatigue, weight loss, low blood pressure, salt cravings, and the skin darkening or hyperpigmentation. So that's Addison's disease. Number 2, most common one that is a diagnosis affecting the adrenals is Cushing's syndrome. So what's Cushing's? Well, it's an overproduction of cortisol. And that is due, sometimes can be tied to medication, can be tied to a tumor somewhere in the adrenal glands or even the pituitary gland. And it's just this scenario where the body is producing excess cortisol and kind of not turning it off. So your symptoms usually are weight gain, usually in the abdomen and in the face. Also high blood pressure is associated with this, thinning skin, muscle weakness, and mood changes. God, Luca, that's like all of the things. I know. These all sound so similar. Number 3 is adrenal fatigue or functional adrenal dysfunction. That's the actual, I suppose that's not a diagnosed or it's not a recognized medical diagnosis yet, but I'm sure it will be at some point, or HPA axis dysregulation. It's another way it's called. But this is where there's been that stress response that's being triggered all the time in the body. This is due to long-term inflammation or living with a high burden of stress. And this is where there's a dysregulation of what's called the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal. Those 3 talk together and govern the stress response. And when they are constantly saying, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, that HPA axis is dysregulated. And this drives an overproduction of cortisol, which eventually leads to low cortisol levels, and you get those symptoms of burnout. So that's the brain fog, the poor sleep, the super deep fatigue, cravings for salty, sweet foods, same, both. There are a few other symptoms or syndromes or conditions. So one is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So if you have that, you would know it would be a diagnosis. This is a genetic thing that goes on where there's a hard time making enzymes or there's a deficiency in some of these enzymes and it impairs your production of cortisol. So you have an overproduction of other hormones that happen. So you can have early puberty as one of the signs, irregular menstrual cycles, or ambiguous genitalia, actually. There's another condition called Conn's syndrome. That's known as hyperaldosteronism. So that's another way that adrenal issues show up. So if you have that, you would know. High blood pressure is one of the symptoms, potassium imbalance, and a few other things. There's muscle weakness involved. There's a lot of urination, headaches, like lots of interesting symptoms. There are adrenal tumors is another big one. I'm probably losing you at this point, but listen, I'll go through these briefly. So if you have adrenal tumors, whether they're benign or malignant, there's going to be some good nutrition advice and recommendations in the Good Food Network this month that will help you. Or maybe you've been diagnosed with pheochromocytoma. It's another condition impacting the adrenals, and there's lots of different symptoms associated with that. Secondary adrenal insufficiency is another diagnosis, and adrenoleukodystrophy, or ALD. It's another condition. So these are all, some of these are genetic, some of them are a dysfunction of something else that's not working well in the body, and the adrenals are on the receiving end of what isn't working well. And as a result, they really struggle. In all of these cases, they are diagnoses that, to me, it's not a problem with the adrenals. It's that the adrenals are feeling the ill effects of something not working well, and now they're struggling. So everything that we're doing in the Good Food Network for the month of January and February is going to be focusing on how to nourish the adrenals and give them the nutrients they need in order to do the job that they are working so hard to do for you. Part of what happens in a scenario is when you don't have all the nutrients, when you have other dysregulation in the body not working well, it now impacts your adrenals and it makes them work harder. So the goal in the network for the month of January, February is going to be explicitly to reduce your burden of stress. When we reduce your burden of stress, now we take some of that pressure off of your adrenals and they don't have to be in overdrive all the time. And when they're nourished well, they can turn off the stress response. When they're missing some of those nutrients, that stress response gets locked on in the on position. I want to turn that off for you, pal. There's more symptoms, hey? There's more than just those conditions and the symptoms. Let's go through some of the other symptoms. Do you struggle with fatigue? Do you have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning? Do you feel stress keenly? Are you a sensitive person? Are you an empath? These are all indicators, yeah? Mood troubles, the worries, anxiety piece we've already covered. Do you have a muffin top? Tricky time through perimenopause, menopause, low libido is another way it can show up too. Histamine issues, brain fog, low energy. Yeah, frequent requests for naps. How are your adrenals, pal? Stamina for work or tasks is waning. Exhaustion, migraines, and headaches is another really surefire sign that the adrenals are asking for help. Are you dizzy when you stand up? Do you have insulin sensitivity issues or type 2 diabetes or metabolic syndrome going on? I tell you, your adrenals have been working overtime for decades at this point. Yep. Do you have salt cravings, dry, scaly skin, allergies, cold hands and feet, digestion not working well, undigested food in your stool? Do you have temple pigmentation? Oh God, Luca. Now I'm sad. I know. Listen, those are all symptoms, yeah? They're symptoms that your body's working hard. They're telling us your body is working hard. Good work, body. Thank you. You're the best. First, let's say that. They are not signs that your body's mad at you or that your body's trying to punish you. Your body's always been working to keep you alive and to keep you well. She's in it for the long game, and she will be until the very last moment. And she'll do her darndest to keep you well. The adrenals are an essential part of your resiliency and your vitality. It's that inner flame. It's that inner furnace. How bright is your light shining? How bright is your furnace burning? Are you struggling with some of these things? If you are, boy, do we have things in the Good Food Network for you this month. Oh yeah, we've got lots of things. Part of what happens when the adrenals are struggling is the higher the stress your body's under, here's the thing. Every time that stress response goes off, the biochemistry of the stress response in the body drives inflammation. It's the same biochemistry. So whether you have inflammation or stress, both are the same biochemistry in the body. And what they do is they actually take your main engine, which is your thyroid, and they take your thyroid offline. They downregulate it when there's a stress response, when there's a lot of stress in the body or a lot of inflammation. Well, if your main engine is the thyroid, do you know you have a backup generator? Guess what the backup generator is? Your adrenals. I know. Your backup generator is the piece that now comes online when the thyroid is going offline. And so everything that we're doing in the Good Food Network is aimed at nourishing the adrenals, but it's also going to be aimed at bringing the thyroid back online. Because the more stress your body is under, the more we're turning off the thyroid, which now makes you rely on the backup generator of the adrenals. Yeah, and then now you start to rely on those quick fixes, the Band-Aid solutions, a cup of coffee, the pastry, the cat nap under your desk, pretending you had a meeting somewhere and you just had a little rest under your desk. That's what I wished I could have done and had the guts to do when I worked in the government a long time ago, because I was exhausted and I had absolute adrenal exhaustion in my 20s. Yeah, like many, many women. And I'm sure many men as well. So what do we do in the network? Well, we do a combination of many different things in the network. Part of what we're doing in the network is arming you with a variety of different ways in to understand what it is that's going on in the body when adrenals are struggling, and giving you a variety of different ways of implementing these simple ideas that you consistently put in place in order to support yourself long term. Yeah, the secret sauce is in that consistency. That is the superpower that we harness in the Good Food Network. And the consistency comes in the reminder of when you implement this idea, it is helping this, but it also helps this. And then the longer you're in the network, the more you start to realize it's kind of always the same recommendations. Oh, yeah, they vary a bit from topic to topic. But the idea is when you start to look after the adrenals, now you're also looking after the thyroid. When you look after the adrenals, now you're reducing inflammation in the body. When you address inflammation, you're actually taking pressure off of the liver, and now hormone conversions can happen better, which helps the adrenals and the thyroid, which then takes pressure off of the backup generator. You're all connected. You're one closed loop system, and what happens in one corner of the body impacts the rest of the body. And the adrenals are one of the hardest working organs in your body, and they get tired. There's a lot of reasons why they get tired. We have extra stress going on that previous generations did not have the amount of stress that we have to undergo. I will dare say it is us evolving as well. The whole stress response came out of an evolution piece that allowed us to survive and figure out that there's trouble up ahead and get ourselves out of harm's way. And here we are in 2025, and the stress is everywhere. It's kind of ubiquitous. When we first developed the stress response, we had it once every 2 months, 3 months, and then we had time to repair whatever happened in that stress response. You would see a saber-toothed tiger every 2 or 3 months. Now you live in a saber-toothed tiger enclosure with 72 saber-toothed tigers in your room, and you're trying to find the door every day, all day. It's kind of the equivalent. I mean, I'm being a little bit dramatic, but it's because I have a drama degree. It's not funny. Anyway, these are the kinds of things that we address in the Good Food Network. And I love what I do. I love this capacity to look at this in different ways. And what happens is what the Good Food Network serves is kind of like a smorgasbord. There's a lot on offer, and everybody comes at it differently. I usually say, listen, if you've got an hour a week, you're going to get excellent use out of the network this month. So committing to 4 or 5 hours a month, you will get so much content and so many good ideas to implement in place. I have a worksheet. There's a worksheet that everybody starts at the start of every month. And that worksheet is broken down into 3 spots. There's a title and what it is we're looking after. The first part says, these are the symptoms I want to address. Beautiful part of using this worksheet is it starts to let you interpret what are those signs your body is telling you. So when you write down what are those top symptoms that you're hoping to shift, you'll know you're on the right track when those symptoms actually shift. Under that, section 2, you write down the food ideas that you come across in all of the videos and the content you watch over the course of the month. In the third part, you write down the lifestyle ideas, things that are not tied to food, the other stuff, right? Like prioritize good downtime, play cards with a friend once a week, those kinds of ideas that'll pop up in the network. And that's where you put that stuff. And the idea is at the end of the month, you've got a 1-page cheat sheet that gives you a series of ideas on how to look after your own body parts. When we're looking after the adrenals, we're again helping that inner flame, that inner furnace to function better. We're bringing the thyroid back online. We're taking the pressure off of the adrenals. And now your resiliency is much better. The triggering of the stress response doesn't come as quickly as it used to. So there's a nervous system piece to this. There's a de-escalating fear piece that we do in the Good Food Network. There is a lot of laughter and joy woven throughout, because man, if we're not having a good time, is it worth your time? No, there's a lot of fart jokes. Yeah. So next, what I want to do, I want to take you through what the Good Food Network looks like for this month so that you can have an idea. Oops. So you can have an idea of what are those pieces that you could access over the course of the month. So I'm going to do one thing. We're going to see. I think I can do it from here. Yeah. Yeah. Yay. Okay, now we can see that. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to turn off my video just for a second so that now you can just see that in its entirety. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. I'm also moving things around a bit here. Okay, so when you log in, so the entire process is here, actually. I'm going to show you this. So I've got a whole page here, and I'm going to link to this underneath the video today. This whole page gives you everything you need to know about the Good Food Network. So it gives you content of, there's a place here if you just want to listen to me read the content of the page, but it tells you all of the different parts of the Good Food Network. What is it? And it's a combination of weekly sessions that are exclusive to the network. There's a special monthly live class. We've got some curated written content, recipes, and seasonal explorations. We've got some on-demand foundational courses and cooking classes as well. And then this orientation session that you're watching right now, the replay is available through this page if ever you want to come back to it. And there's a series down here that you can ask yourself, how do I know if the Good Food Network might be a good fit for me? So before you join the Good Food Network, come through here and ask yourself these questions. Do you say yes to any of these? Then this is going to tell you that you would be a good fit to join us. And then the second part here is, how do I know if the Good Food Network might not be right for me at this time? This is an equally important step to read through in order to understand if this is going to be a place where you'll feel at home. Now, the cost per month, I haven't changed the cost for 2025. I've kept it at the same price because I know everything else is going up. I struggled with it, but I'm keeping it at the same price because I want it to be affordable, I want it to be accessible, and I want it to be content that you feel you're getting good value for. So it's $35 a month. You can just click on this button when you're ready to join. The monthly membership, everything it includes is all in here. Important information before you sign up. And for you to know, you can try it for a 7-day free trial period. If you get back to me within a week and you say, Luca, it's not what I thought it would be, I want out. No problem. I will reimburse you and I will absorb the $10 fee it cost me per month that I give out to all the services that they take off of the $35. I'll cover that $10 for you because I'm pretty sure you won't leave. In the 3.5 years I've been hosting it, I've yet to have anybody leave. So there's that. So there you go. So that information, I will make sure the link to that is just below here. Now, once you join, this is everything that you would see. So in order to access it, you click on Programs. I'll maximize the page. Sometimes it's a bit easier. And here is GF Network. It's the Good Food Network. So this is where everything lives. You've got your modules here. You've got the breakdown of all the different moving pieces of the whole network there. I'll tell you there's a couple of sections. The first one is just the administrative side of things. The next section is everything that is pre-recorded content or on demand. It's already been recorded. You can access it whenever you want. It's ready as of the first of the month. There's some live sessions. So anything that's done live is the information is housed here. And if there's a replay, they're also housed in here. I'll take you through what that looks like. And then we also have a written content section. So I'm actually going to start you in the written content section. We've got recipes every month, and these are tied to Adrenals. So this month, if you click on this, it takes you through to see what are the recipes. So we've got a really lovely multi-veg side dish, which is an easy thing to pop in the oven. There's a Korean steak marinade, which is so easy to make. Scallops colcannon. Scallops are a really wonderful food for the adrenals and a brilliant winter food. The gyoza is a homemade, gluten-free, dairy-free, low histamine actually, amazing offering that you can very quickly make in order to have a fake out takeout, as I like to call it. So that's a weekend recipe, but it's pretty fun. There's an adrenal hot leaven cuppa as well. So all of these are specifically aimed at nourishing your adrenals. And because I have a lot of clients that have histamine issues, there's usually a low histamine option on offer. And for anybody who has a histamine issue, sometimes there is one recipe that will not be applicable. and there that information will be there. And so the recipes are down here. You just download to your computer and you print from your downloads folder. And once you've done them, you click on this button called Mark Completed up top right. And once you do that, it lets you know the next time you log in and you go back to your program, it tells you that you've completed this one already. Well, isn't that sweet? I love it. Now, there's also a section for a weekly good food challenge. I used to do these on my social account, but now I've moved it to just be in the network. So this week, there's a featured food. Feature some bison meat this week. We talk about some of the different nutrients and why it would be so good for the adrenals. And then I give you some ideas on how to cook it up and some recipes and where to find some stuff, how to shop for it and what have you. So these are the weekly challenges. There's one updated every Monday. And we also, in that written section, we have a third section where it is a whole seasonal exploration with the seasons. So in the winter season is the perfect season to look after the adrenals and the kidneys and the bones, actually. So it's one of the reasons why I decided to do adrenals, actually, in January and February, because it is, according to traditional Chinese medicine, absolutely the season to look after the adrenals. So in here, there's a full handout on exploring foods to nourish yourself through the season. I always weave in a seasonal eating piece because of its propensity to support a biochemistry and reduce stress in the body. When you eat, when what is on your plate matches what is happening outside, your body is expecting those types of food. And when you provide the foods your body is expecting, you actually reduce stress in the body. So this module helps you attain that. Okay, so these are the written content. Once you finish them, make sure you click on complete so that you know you've done them. You can still view it, as you can see. But here, in the administrative side of things, so at the top of your modules, there's a Start Here Kitten button. So when you first join us, make sure you click on this module to access it. And there's a whole video that gives you a rundown of what to expect and how to move through the network. So make sure you watch that. Now, there's also all a breakdown of all of the different sessions, who would be well suited to catching some of this content and which one would be better suited to you. So you can see all of that in there. So make sure you check that out if you need to. Now, we've also got a schedule and checklist, a module on our main topic, and everything about your network subscription. If you have any questions about your subscription, this is where you're going to find it. This module never changes. It's always the same. It's been the same for 2.5 years. So this tells you everything you need to know. Do you need to cancel? Do you need to change a credit card maybe? Do you have questions and you want to get in touch? Everything, this is kind of your FAQ section. Make your way there if you have any questions. Now, a schedule and checklist is probably the most useful module to access when you first join in because there's a schedule and a few printables in here. So this is what we've got going on in terms of live classes. So right now we're doing the orientation call, 9 a.m. Alberta, how to use the network. We've also got these Thursday morning sessions. That's part of our live sessions. The food is medicine sessions. I'll show you what we're doing this month. The topics are all here. And then that live class that we're doing this month is also here. On January 22nd, we're doing one on low energy. So once you've got it here, you can download to your computer and then you can print it from there. You don't have to, but you can if you want. I usually like to have a copy next to my desk so that I know what's happening and then I highlight what it is that I might want to watch. As it turns out, I have to be at all of them, so I just make sure I'm there. So here we've got a checklist as well. So in January, in the network, these are all the different parts you can do. And again, I'll tell you, it's like a smorgasbord. When you go to a buffet, do you eat everything under the buffet glass? No. You pick and choose what it is you want. And I encourage you to use this checklist that way. On the left is a space. So here you write down in order. Number 1, I really want to watch this digestive detective because I have a hard time digesting. So I want to make sure that I prioritize this and it'll be number 1. Oh, I don't want to learn how to make my own wontons. I'm going to scratch that class out. Go for it. But there is a class, a cooking class, that is on demand whenever you want to watch it. So this is your DIY wontons. It's very similar to the gyoza recipe that we've got this month. So once you've watched them, you can check it off. So use this as a checklist to make your way through the network. And when you've got it posted up on the back of a cupboard door or next to your computer, or maybe where you sit on the couch to do some leisurely things in the evening, this will remind you to get back into the network and to jump through that content. And yeah, go through each piece and decide if you want to watch it or not and what the order is going to be. And there's that worksheet I was talking about. Oh, this should say January. I'm going to go in and change it after I wrap up. This will say January, but these are the main goals this month. What do I want to address or work on? Or how is it showing up in my body? I have low energy. I have temple pigmentation. I have adrenal fatigue. These are the things I want to address. Excellent. Action items regarding food, foods I want to feature and why. Oh, bison was the food of the week, so eat bison all the time. It's really good for energy. Action items regarding lifestyle and other things. So here you want to write down other things that are not like bison or avocado or the types of foods, right? These are more bigger ideas that you want to implement in order to look after your adrenals. And then again, download to your computer and print. There you go. Once you've printed them all, you're going to hit mark completed, top right corner. And that is going to be completed once you go back to your modules. So it's nice to use that feature. I also really like to see what people are up to and what they're printing and what they're moving through. So it gives me a lot of joy when you fill that in, I'll tell you. There's a whole topic module on adrenals, and it goes into what are the symptoms and how do you know you've got adrenal things and what does it take to look after adrenals. This is just a written content module. There's nothing earth-shattering in there, but if you're curious to know what are all the symptoms, this is where you'll find them. Now let's go through this section here, pre-recorded content. That means it's on demand, kind of like Netflix, kind of like Disney or Prime or Apple TV, whatever. When you want to watch it, it's ready for you to watch. We've got 3 on offer. The first one is a 40-minute class called Digestive Detective. It's part of a program I used to run in 2019, I started. And there are 30 to 40-minute videos that explain, and there's recipes and ideas behind it. And when you can better digest, you'll get more of the nutrients out of the foods you're eating. So if you are prioritizing good foods, I want to make sure you're able to get the nutrients into your system. This module helps you do that. There's a whole vitality class on adrenals. This is probably the most comprehensive piece that's in the network. So these are 2 to 3 hour classes I used to host at the Light Cellar. And I did this one. I have yet to teach this one at the Light Cellar. I did it after I had started the main ones of gut, liver, histamines, brain, and heart. And I eventually developed this one. But this is how to understand what's happening in your adrenals and all of the moving parts. There's a series of videos. There's a lot of videos. So they're all labeled here. You're going to see video 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. On your handout, you're going to see a spot here at the bottom of the first page where you've got all these little numbers outlined there. So circle or cross out once you've watched the videos as you're going through the content so you can keep track of what's happening in the class. And I'll tell you, there's a spot, it's a 10-page handout for you to jot down and write down ideas. There's recipes and what have you. There's some electrolyte drinks in here and really yummy recipes to get you started on nourishing your adrenals. So make time for this class. This class by itself is actually worth $80. So I'm making it available in the GoodFood Network for the month of January and February so that you'll be able to access it. So you get the value of this class at a cheaper rate when you join the GoodFood Network. If this is the only thing you're going to access in the network, you've already covered, like you've already won $55 in your pocket, $45 in your pocket, pardon me. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm saying this because I know a lot of people want to make sure they're getting good value. I'm telling you, there is very good value in the network. There's tons of information here. What are your adrenals and what do they do? Why this is all about inflammation. When adrenals are working so hard, what's going on? How to know if your adrenals are struggling. What's so bad about my adrenals working so hard? Let's talk negative impacts on your adrenals. This starts to give you some of those steps to put in place to nourish them and take some of that negative impact right off of them. Then we get into 5 strategies to get you started. Life hack 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5 of them. Then we get into foods and recipes. You get a list of foods and series of recipes to nourish you. There's recipes at every turn. And then at the end, I'm going to encourage you to commit to 3 things you want to do in the coming week to start supporting your adrenals. So make sure you go through this content. And again, once you've done it, make sure you click on mark completed. If you haven't finished it, don't worry about it. Go back to the whole modules and you'll know to come back in that it's not done. No problem. We also have a cooking class. We're doing DIY wontons. This is something my daughter and I did at the start of the pandemic. And luckily, we had the good fortune of recording our sessions that we did as this junior high cooking class elective during the pandemic. And I packaged it, built it with her, and now we've got it standing alone here in the network. And there's a whole 90-minute class on DIY wonton. So it's another takeout fake out that I love to do that tastes even better than takeout. So dive into this one if you will. We've also got live sessions. So every Thursday morning, we've got 7 a.m. Alberta time. We've got sessions. They're all tied to the adrenals. These are all new content and they're only found in the Good Food Network and only at this time. I don't have them living anywhere else. So these are the topics we're covering this month into January. And every time we do a live session, I also house the recording. So there is a replay here. So we've already done, that's a great image. We've already done one for this month of January. Last Thursday was one. And so it lives here and you'll be able to watch it here. So as soon as you sign up, you can already access some of these things. There's also an electrolyte drinks recipe that I talked about in that one. So that would be available for you to download as well. So these give you the information of what we're covering on the Thursdays of the month, and then the replays are just below. The other live session we've got is a full 2-hour class. So it's 90 minutes and then half an hour for questions at the end. And this month, we're focusing on low energy. We're going to be doing lots of interesting things. This class you could take by itself as well, or you can join us in the Good Food Network. You're going to get good value in the network, right? This could be one of the pieces and might be the only piece you want to address. You would still get good value out of the network if you're doing that. So those are our goals. How to know if this is a class for you, and then how to join us when the class is on. And then the replay is going to be available down here as well. As soon as we've run the class, it's going to be there. As soon as there are handouts, this will also be there. And again, once you're done this class, you click on mark completed. Going back to our modules, we've gone through and seen every one of the 4 sections. This is the administrative section, our pre-recorded on-demand content, our live sessions, and our written content. So now you've seen all the different moving parts. There's one last piece I want to show you. So there is a chat that happens here, and it's a little bit easier to see if we go through this chat bubble up top. You can access it from the program itself or the network. I find it's a little bit easier up here. So here we've got, it's just a little bit easier to see. Every time I put something new in the network, when there's a replay available, for example, or there's a new food to feature, I always pop it in the chat. So if you're logging in every Friday, for example, start by going through all the content that has been posted in the last week and see if there's anything in there that interests you. So bison. Every Friday, I also post an article or a podcast or a link to a video or something that is tied into the adrenals. Why winter is the season of adrenals. That's what we posted last Friday. And then every time there's new content, I let you know. Our Thursday morning sessions are usually posted here. And when the recording is ready, I always pop it in the comments below so you can see it there. And so on and so forth. So you can dive through and see all of these different things we've posted through the month. So this gives you an update of what it is you've missed. You can also use this section to pose any questions to the group. Hi, all. It's Luca checking in. I just watched the Vitality Adrenals class, And I've decided my 3 things I'm going to address are, and then you can pop those in there. And it's kind of an accountability thing if you want, and everybody who's in the network will see it. So you can use this way as well. Or you can also send me a message directly. So here, when you've clicked on this little chat bubble up top, you've got access to 2 chats, the Good Food Network itself, and you can direct message me, Luca, I have a question. And then you just pop your question in there. You hit that little paper plane, and then I get the message. Oh, there we are. So there we go. So there's an automatic message. I've never seen this come up. So there you go. This all pops in here. And then I get that message, and then I'll be able to answer. And then next time you log in, you'll see that there's a message waiting for you, and this is where you'll be able to retrieve it. Now, getting back to our network. If you click on this image on top left, it takes you to your home page. You can access your network either through programs or through this little widget here where it says My Programs. Every time we have a live session, for example, this orientation call, they're going to be in upcoming sessions. These little boxes are called widgets. So in the widgets, you've got everything you can access. So your upcoming sessions are here. When it's time to join, if you're going to join us live, all you have to do is click on this camera icon, and it takes you right to the Zoom room, if you will. So here we've got our Food is Medicine weekly video on this Thursday, next Thursday, January 22nd, the live class will be there, and what have you. So these are easy to click into. And getting back to our network is as easy as clicking on GF Network. Here it is. Everything is here. Your sessions are also here. You can see your progress. You can see an overview. You can tootle around in here. I'll tell you, you can't make anything disappear. Now, that is that for what the website looks like. So now we're going to come back. I'm going to turn on my camera. There we are. Okay, so it's back on. Awesome. And there we go. That's better. Okay, so there's the camera. And there's the light. Okay, now we're set up. So that's everything there is to know about the Good Food Network. I took you for a tour. I asked you all the questions so that you can figure out if your adrenals are asking for help. This is a place of solutions. The cost of it is an affordable price because you are motivated to step in and make your own to-do list. The network is the perfect place for either somebody who's wanted to be a one-on-one client but feels the cost of sessions is out of their price range. Taking yourself through the network really helps you put those pieces in place for yourself. And anybody who's in the network, you can send me any questions you want all through the month. It's unlimited access to asking questions. If it starts to get a little complicated, then I will direct you to a place to sign up for a 30-minute consult. It's a $30 fee on that one. And so it's a special rate for you. Like, there's a lot of benefits and bonuses to joining the Good Food Network, especially if working one-on-one feels like it's outside of your reach, financially speaking. It is also the perfect place for anybody who's been a client before and is finding themselves in this new year saying, oh yeah, all those things I did with Luca, I felt pretty good when I was putting them in place. And you know, it's been like 2 years since we've worked together. I need to revisit these ideas and implement them back into my life. You're going to see the exact same content that you and I've covered in our one-on-one sessions housed in the network. And you're going to get a refresher. And you're going to get that reinforcement of that consistency and those pieces that are going to be the big needle movers to get you feeling better. Because here's a secret. Your adrenals are working hard for you. They've been letting you know for a long time that they adore you and they want you to be at your best. But they may be letting you know that something is up. If they're talking to you loudly and they're using their outside voice, then know that the Good Food Network is going to have a bevy of solutions that you'll be in charge of taking yourself through and implementing them at the pace that feels good to you. Lots and lots of supports all along the way that come from me to help you be your best. So Are you ready to join us? I cannot wait to see you. We have such a good time. And I always stick around at the end of every live session should you have any questions or want to address something that's going on for you. Thanks for joining me on this Monday morning in Alberta. It is supper hour now. I'm going to go have a bowl of soup. Super good for your adrenals, I might add. Thanks for joining me and look forward to seeing you another time. Salut, à bientôt.